Welcome to Small Cap Nation. I'm Jane King at the Marcum MicroCap Conference in New York, and we're talking today. Don Bupar, the CEO of Avalon Advanced Materials. I got all that right?
You did, good job.
So tell me about the company. What do you do?
Okay, we're a Canadian mineral development company with a focus on specialty minerals and metals. And by that I mean it's those niche market commodities that are seeing new demand in clean technology and high technology. So for example, the one that we're focused on right now that's probably familiar to your listeners is lithium, because of its growing importance in rechargeable battery technology in electric vehicles.
It's useful, but then it's also had its problems too, with hoverboards or whatever, so a lot of people are familiar with that.
Yeah, well, it's an emerging technology, lithium-ion batteries, so it's been around since the 70s, and it's taken a long time for the technology to evolve where it's able to address some of the safety issues as well as achieve the performance specifications that they need to make it valuable in applications like electric vehicles, where you need to be able to store a lot of energy to take you a long distance and be able to recharge it relatively quickly so it doesn't take hours and hours to recharge your vehicle. And they're achieving that now, and also have greatly improved the safety of the product at the end of the day. It was all about dispersing the heat that's generated by the reaction going on in the battery, and there's still manufacturers that maybe could do a better job of making them safer.
Now, I know Tesla's building this big gigafactory in Nevada where they're going to be making lithium-ion batteries. So do you have any relationships like that with any of those electric vehicle companies?
We're still kind of at the very starting phases of developing what our product can look like. So it's a bit premature for us to be engaging directly with potential customers, but obviously, as a North American producer, our project's in northwestern Ontario, Canada. We want to be able to serve the emerging market in North America. And obviously, Tesla are looking like one of the bigger players in the game going forward, so they would be one of the companies we'd obviously want to be talking to. But it's important for people to appreciate that while they're getting a lot of the headlines these days, they're not the only game in town when it comes to developing lithium-ion battery technology, and there's lots of other companies.
And it's got applications outside of automobiles as well. I mean, it's in a lot of different things.
Yes, and electric vehicles are getting all the headlines, but one of the more intriguing ones is home energy storage. And Tesla are developing a product for that. It just makes sense that for the average domestic consumer to be able to take advantage of that technology to reduce their reliance on the grid and be able to store energy at their convenience.
Now, outside of lithium, what are some other materials that you work with?
Lithium has kind of stolen the show lately, and we've positioned ourselves as a diversified specialty minerals company to be able to position ourselves to serve a new demand when it came along. Originally, we started working with lithium back in the 90s when the interest was for lithium in thermal shock resistant glass ceramics, actually. But over the last 10 years, the story that kind of stole the show was rare earth elements.
Yes.
So we had a rare earth elements project, and you may recall there was a tremendous amount of interest in developing new supplies.
That was like 4 or 5 years ago. I remember a lot of talk of that, like China has a lot of rare earth elements.
China basically controlled the global supply, and they're critical materials needed in a lot of new technology too. So with China showing some evidence that they were not going to be a reliable supplier going forward, there was a lot of interest in seeing new supply sources emerge outside of China. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, so it's quite likely that the same thing is going to happen again at some point in time, but there are companies like us that got pretty close to being able to bring new supply to the market until the market changed, but we're positioned now in the kind of a holding pattern to resume where we left off when the market demand returns for rare earth elements.
So how do you see the rare earth and just the general mineral market? I mean, people don't realize how much these things are used in our everyday products. I mean, how do you see the growth? Where's the growth going to come from?
That's a very important point. People just don't really appreciate where stuff comes from.
Right,
that they
no.
use every day.
It all comes from basic stuff, right? And
It's very frustrating for those of us in the mineral sector, because we try to remind people that you have to have a mineral industry to have most of the things you use every day. Yet there's this sense that the environmental impacts are something we don't want, so we don't want to have any mining, right? Well, if you don't, you got a problem. You're not going to have an automobile or any of the things
You're
that
going to have
you
a
use every day.
smartphone, you're going to have computer chips, all that. So, okay, so tell me about next 1, 3, 5 years for Avalon.
We've got 3 advanced projects. We also have a tin project that's an interesting opportunity for us too. It's a brownfield site. It was a past producer of tin in Nova Scotia that closed prematurely when the tin market changed in the 1990s. But it has a resource on surface of broken ore that was never processed because they stopped before they thought they were going to. And it presents an opportunity for us to start production in the short term as a small-scale tin producer with a relatively short path to production and relatively low capital cost to do that. So we're positioned to move a number of projects forward to serve different markets. And our plan is to demonstrate the economics on those in the short term, and then access capital to build one or both of these over the next, say, 2 to 3 years, and get ourselves into the position of being a producer of specialty minerals and metals for all these new emerging applications.
Sure, and it's changing every year, it seems like.
That's right. And so there's probably a few new ones coming along and we're trying to anticipate where those demands are going to be and position ourselves to serve those too.
Okay, well thank you, Don Bubar, for joining us today to tell us a story about Avalon Advanced Materials.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us on Small Cap Nation. I'm Jane King at the Marcum MicroCap Conference in New York.